Welcome to the Winning Wellness Podcast, where we explore health, wellness, performance, and try to improve not only your quantity of life, but your quality of life. I'm your host, Mitch Schwartzman.
Joining us today is a strength and conditioning coach that I had the honor of working with at Linwood University of 2013 to about 2015. And in the role that he had at Linwood University, I was able to observe him and kind of see that not only was he the biggest and strongest guy in the weight room, but unfortunately also the smartest guy. So, he's somebody that I've kind of stayed in touch with, and he's been doing some pretty amazing things in his home country of Germany. And I think he'll tell us a little bit about that today, and also just kind of hopefully share some of the research and the science that he's been diving into. So he's had a great career and pretty impressive on the academic side as well. Dr. Simon Overkamp, thank you for joining us. If we can just kind of start with the background, I saw him as a very large lifter who had just finished his rugby career. But Coach, if you can maybe go back even a little bit before I met you and kind of tell us about your athletic upbringing and how you got involved in the weight room.
Of course. Well, thanks for having me, Coach. Thanks for the opportunity. And you've asked about my athletic background. I think it's pretty most German kids or most German boys. I started out playing soccer. Did that until I was, let's say, 15 or 16. And then actually, I feel like that's also kind of like a classic journey, rehabbing from a knee injury. Obviously, with the whole return to process, strength training was a part of it, and fell in love with it straight away. And actually figured out that you could only do that, and not just for yourself, but also getting people to train or helping people to get stronger and hopefully not get hurt again. And that's pretty much what also triggered my interest in the US setting, because I knew you could that was the best possible way to combine education and also pursuing your own athletic career. Because right after I was done with football, done with soccer, made the switch to rugby. And then Linwood was one of the few U.S. colleges that offered athletic scholarships for the sport of rugby, and that was kind of my way in or my way over. And that's how I got to Linwood. And then, as you said, as my playing days or my playing career was winding down, I'd also took a turn of helping or coaching my fellow teammates, and then started making connections with the Linwood strength staff, started interning, and was accepted into the GA program, and also did my master's degree at Linwood. So that's kind of how I started getting into touch with the weight room or with the strength training.
Awesome. And then departing the U.S. in 2015, you head back to Germany. Can you kind of walk us through professionally the last handful of years for you?
Yeah, I was actually having to leave the U.S. a little bit short notice, because I was hoping to get a work visa, which unfortunately didn't work out for me. So I kind of had only a short period of time to get everything in order on the U.S. side, and then move back to Germany. Actually, at the airport in St. Louis, I actually found or heard about a job offering at the Olympic Training Center. The deadline for the application had already passed. I applied anyways, kind of explained my situation. And then when I landed, already had received an answer to my email, them inviting me over to still try out and be out there for an interview. The Olympic Training Center in Magdeburg, Germany, which is about an hour and a half east of Berlin. and interviewed there, did okay, worked out, moved there, started the position, and mainly working with track and field, and there especially the throwers, and then team handball as well. Also some swimming, some canoe racing, some diving, and some gymnasts. So not as many sports as Linwood has, but still a few. So yeah, that's how my journey continued. And then as of last year, I made the transition from a sports scientist or strength and conditioning coach at the Olympic Training Center in Magdeburg to the German Handball Federation, where I'm now the national coach of strength and conditioning and responsible for all of our national teams. We got on the male and female side, we got 4 teams each with the senior team, and then under 20s, under 18s, and under 16s, as well as 4 beach handball teams, 2 on the male and 2 on the female side. Alongside that, or along with that, I'm involved with teaching or with the coaches education program, and yeah, so that's kind of my day-to-day now.
Yeah, that's incredible. Something simple like applying to a job when the deadline had already passed. It's something like it'd be so easy to just shrug your shoulders and say, "Oh, it's too late." But just like taking your shot at little things like that, I think it's just like it's such like a sign of like persistence and just being willing to do a little bit of extra work, even if it might result in absolutely nothing. And anyways, maybe we'll rotate back to that down the road. But I like that little piece of that story. I had not heard that before. Can you talk a little bit about so we got your undergrad and your master's over at Linwood, but you go home and you get a PhD. Can you walk us through that process and kind of talk a little bit about your specialty and your emphasis with that?
Yeah, of course. Like I said, I was working with a lot of athletes at the Olympic Training Center, and I was thinking I'm collecting a lot of data, and obviously I'm going to use that data for the better of my athletes. But why not just for the better of my athlete, but also for all the athletes? So the most athlete-dense sport I was working with, and I'm still working with, is handball. So the interesting thing about handball is it's pretty dense with in regards to how many competitions you have. Like if you're looking at the Champions League level team or the pro level teams, it's not unusual to have 3 matches a week. So you usually have a match at the beginning of the week, let's say Monday. Then you have an international match on on Wednesday or Thursday, and then you got another match in the National German League on Saturday. So you only have limited time to train between those matches, and obviously there's a lot of traveling involved with that. And my thought process always was like, how can I make the most out of that very limited training time that my athletes actually have? And the same goes not just for top level, but it goes down to youth level. They're used to playing 2 or 3 matches a week, and I've always been intrigued by the concept of velocity-based training. And what it really allows me is, other than like pushing intent, like trying to move a weight as fast as possible, is also the opportunity for me as a coach to kind of pick up the player at that point where he or she is right now. Let's say, where's he at in regards to stress or fatigue? Did he play a lot? Did he play a little? Did he not play at all? And it kind of allows me, like I always call it like the third pillar. First pillar being like sets and reps, and then second pillar being the weight on the bar, and then the third pillar being the intent or the velocity of the movement, which kind of is also a readiness kind of thing. It tells me a lot like how he is moving, obviously technique wise, but also speed wise. And that's kind of where I kind of probed and wanted to know more. And That was kind of the theme or the topic of my dissertation, and found out some pretty interesting things especially in regards to everything that's important for a handball player, like running, jumping, and throwing. Obviously, the better somebody can do that, the higher the chance of him to being a good handball player. And then over the course of 3 years, I found that picking the players up where they're at that point allowed him to still develop those capacities or those abilities, jumping, throwing, and running, even with that very competition dense schedule.
Maybe some listeners who are not familiar with velocity-based training, can you talk to us a little bit about how you implement that in the weight room? What's your approach?
Yeah, like I said, not without getting too technical. I talked the first thing being pushing intent. Like we want to move a weight as fast as possible. Obviously, the heavier the weight, the slower it's going to move, but still, it's the intent behind it, trying to push and trying to grind. And then the other thing being able to react on how the athlete is feeling on that particular day. That'd be my two main things. And I think a major benefit of using velocity-based training is that it's really accompanying training, if I may say so. Like I said, they're lifting the weight anyways, so why not find a measuring device? The device I was using is just a little magnet that goes on the bar, and then the athlete we had 2 or 3 smart pads or smart iPads on the walls, so they will get a feedback. And obviously team athletes are competitive, they're going to get a kick out of it, being able to move faster than their teammates. That's another nice side effect. So yeah, other than that, I feel like it's mainly just a little extra, but that doesn't take extra time, and this kind of goes along with the training.
You're using a little bit of technology to maybe see like their meters per second of maybe like how fast they're pressing motions. But you said that you're able to sort of like adjust depending on how they're doing that day. So what's like a typical adjustment that you might make?
Yeah, I'm looking at the velocity drop, so I know their baseline of a speed of movement at a certain percentage of weight, and I know if they are way off. Like with you said, the pushing movement. Let's stick with the bench press. It's like a drop off. I'm using 5%, so if they're moving 5% slower than their baseline, then their weight is going to get reduced by a certain amount. So that's like I said, they're still training and not gonna have to pull anybody from the group. I'm just making small adjustments. So we're not, and then obviously it has a lot to do with educating your athletes. Like I always bring up the Arnold quote: 200 pounds is always 200 pounds. That's correct, but 200 pounds is not always gonna feel the same, especially if you keep piling on 3 matches with a full contact sport week after week after week. So at some point, the 200 pounds are gonna feel a little bit heavier than they maybe did after a 6-week summer break. So, and I think we've done a pretty good job with that, with the athletes kind of picking their battles wisely, not so much just focusing on the weight on the bar, but more of quality of movement and speed of movement. And we're still, like I said, we're still having competition. And I have my goal for the session in regards to a certain strength trait or strength quality, and we're still going to reach that goal, even though they might be pre-exhausted.
Excellent. And then what's like the battery of motions that you use that you measure with the accelerometer?
Mm-hmm. I'm using upper body push and pull. So I'm using for seal row in the bench press. I'm using it for a squat, and I'm using it for a deadlift. And I'm also using it for weighted jumps.
How do you do your weighted jumps?
usually with a trap bar in their hands and the sensor or the magnet being on the trap bar.
Are you concerned with their jump height on the trap bar motion, or is it all?
Yes.
Is it so? Are you taking two metrics at the same time? Are you taking a jump height and a meters per second, or
Yeah,
is
I'm taking both. I'm taking both.
Is that a jump? Is that a jump mat? Are they lifting off of some jump mat, or how do you gauge that height?
They're jumping off a jump mat.
Okay.
So the system that I'm using that gives you also gives you a height, but with the arm movement on the trap bar, I'm a little hesitant on that. So I'm just to be safe, I'm having them jump on a jump mat as well, the jump height, and then the sensor is going to give me the velocity.
And then, what piece of technology are you using?
It's now called eNote Pro. It used to be called VMAX Pro. It's German engineered, and I was actually involved in developing it. So it's from Magdeburg, from the guys from the University of Magdeburg, which we had a strong relationship with during my time at the Olympic Training Center in Magdeburg. So and they've been pretty great also with the customer support, and tweaked a little bit for the ideas I had for my PhD. So that's been pretty reliable, and I'm pretty happy with it, especially with how easy the setup is. It takes me 5 to 10 seconds, and I'm ready to go with a whole group of athletes.
Oh wow! How big is your typical training group in the weight room?
Usually you have 16 players per handball team, and usually it's divided into groups of 8. That's like your standard.
What are your zones? So if you have maybe like a heavy day, medium, light, how do you break that up, and how do you communicate that to your athletes?
I don't know if you're familiar with I think it's the Michael Bosco chart, and Brian Mann used it quite a bit with the chart. That's like, I think it's like an arrow, and it compares the strength, quality, absolute strength, strength, speed, strength, and speed with a certain velocity in meters per second, and
Yes.
I'm kind of oriented along those lines. So my guys always know, okay, it's an absolute strength, or it's a max strength day. Those would be the numbers. Obviously, they're gonna depend a little bit of what movement I'm doing. So the longer the range of motion, obviously the higher the speed can be at the end range of that. So let's say if we're doing like a max day, it'd be for a squat, it'd probably be around 0.5 meters per second, and if it's a speed day, it'd be probably somewhere be around, depending on the exercise again, 0.8, maybe 1.2 meters per second, something along those lines.
Is it full go so we talked about how you'll pull back if they're a little slow, you'll lighten the load. If they are crushing if their nervous system is good and they're powerful that day and they're moving fast, is it a green light to add weight on the bar?
Yeah, obviously, as long as they're within that range that we're shooting for on that specific day, it's full go. And then obviously, like I said, with they're not always going to have the same playing time, and I feel like it's also an outlet for the guys that didn't play as much, and obviously they're going to be disappointed. And I still have them within the group and kind of allowing them to go do a little extra, go a little extra. And I feel like that's helping the entire group, like not having to make exceptions, or not opening room for discussion. They were still training the same thing. He's just feeling better or doing better today, and I feel like that's an easy to grasp concepts, in at least in my opinion so far. And I think that works pretty well, since it, like I said, it's accompanying, or it's along the training. Like I said, we're all training anyways, so not why make those adjustments as we go to help the guys and pick them up where they are.
Yeah, excellent. Is anybody ever so neurologically whooped that there's so bad that you just kick them out of the weight room? You're just
Yep,
like, how often do you run across that?
once or twice a week. And I feel like oftentimes it's like with the high level teams, it's the traveling more than anything, because handball is in the media, is on TV, and we have a good fan base, but we are definitely number two after soccer. So and you especially see that with traveling, there's no charter flights, and then if we are playing somewhere in Eastern Europe, it's like a 36-hour trip, and then off the plane, sleep for 6 hours, and then the next day is the next game again. So that probably more than the actual sport or the actual game itself. It's like the way you travel that's kind of hard on the guys.
Do you have the ability, or have you tweaked anything with the traveling? Whether and I know you guys have a coworker who's a chef, and you take care of their food, their nutrition, things like that. How do you steer the ship to make their traveling more accommodating, to have them be better prepared?
Mm.
Is it about what the staff is doing in the travel, or is it about what the athletes are doing?
I think it's longer lasting again if we are trying to educate our athletes. So you see them on waiting at the airport doing their mobility or rolling, and if we're on the bus, they're inside their compression pants, and then obviously, like I said, nutrition is a big thing for us. So we are fortunate enough to even have a chef on staff, and I think we're pretty good on that end. But then again, if you have a guy that's almost 7 foot and you have him cramped in a bus or on a plane for extended periods of time, there's only so much you can have him roll or eat the right snack and give him enough fluid. It's not gonna be beneficial to him if we're doing that 9 months a year for 2 or 3 times a week. So yeah, I think we're making the right steps, but the biggest or the bigger opportunity would be maybe having one world-class player less and invest that in better travel for the other 15 guys, to be honest.
Yes, interesting. Yeah, maybe just you got to sacrifice one, you know.
One for the greater good, yeah.
Yes. Um, you've mentioned the annual schedule a couple times. You just mentioned like 9 months of it sounds like competition, and you mentioned a 6 week downtime or off season. Can you just kind of like maybe give us an insight as to what their year looks like a little bit?
Yeah. So usually what you have, or the biggest issue we have, is the thing what happens on a club level in Europe with the teams that play internationally. You're looking at about 60 or 70 games a season, and especially with the German Bundesliga, which is probably the strongest league in the world. So you don't really have off days. So if you're playing at the last place team and you're not bringing your A squad and your A game, you're not going to win there, especially with a hostile crowd and everything. So it's how competitive the league is. And you have usually preseason starts probably mid-July, and then the men play their on national team level, play their either European Championship or World Championship the entire month of December. So that's when the league rests. Unfortunately for the national team players, they get like 36 hours after the European. We placed fourth at the European Championships, and then 36 hours later, the guys were playing again. So not just back to training, they're playing again. After having played 11 games in 22 days in 4 different cities in Germany. So, and then you basically, if you're a national team player, you don't have time off over. You play on Christmas and everything. It's just all the way through, and then again the season ends mid May, and then usually you would have those 2 months off, mid-May to mid-July, obviously with homework and everything, but no team setting. But this year is an Olympic year, so again, the national team players, they get 2 weeks off, and then we are rounding them up to prep. Hopefully, we haven't qualified yet. Round them up, and then prep them, and then play in Paris. Hopefully, be there when the medals are given out. Again, 48 hours later, it's playing time again.
Awesome.
And then obviously, if you look at the statistics, the month of February, so after the international tournament, and the month of September after the Olympic Games is when the ACL tears and all the injuries just skyrocket. And everybody sees the issue, and but obviously nobody wants claims on the players' health is our greatest good. But on the other hand, the clubs are not going to rest their best players, and obviously a national coach is not going to say, oh, okay, enjoy your summer off, you're not going to play at the Olympics. Obviously players still want to compete in the Olympics, but that's the sport of handball for you.
A combination of your experience, but maybe data. Do you think that you have been able to help maybe with this load management with your velocity-based training? Have you been able to measure lower stress levels, whether it is decreased injuries, or do you do like a survey where you do like a wellness survey, or you do like a check-in or anything like that? What kind of data, or whether it's anecdotal or maybe through your PhD, what have you kind of seen?
Yeah, both with my PhD and also with my current position, we do a 365 days a year. We do a wellness questionnaire, and then obviously the data from the VBT is a part of it too. It's objective. That's how fast you moved, and then a lot of the questionnaire is subjective. How did it feel, and how do I feel, and how much of a toll is the traveling and everything. So VBT is definitely a part of it, but without the feedback from the players, or without the whole monitoring aspect, it's just too much in the open there, or leaves too much out of the big picture. And I feel like I said, the advantage of VBT is allowing to players to train at a manageable load during that specific day. So I feel like that actually is, sometimes it's the things you leave out or you do not is what actually helps the athlete more than what you, it's in my template. Let's do it anyways. And I feel like that's a pretty smart way to still hold them accountable to give maximal effort, and if that's what's maximally possible in their day, then be it. So I think it ties in pretty well with that.
Yeah, excellent. Let's just stay on that topic. So you're doing the wellness surveys, you're gauging their neurological readiness in the weight room. And we talked about kicking. You said once or twice a week you'll tell an athlete, today's not your day. Go take a nap, or you just get them out of the weight room.
Yep.
How often does that, or does that a combination of the wellness survey, your readiness survey, and your neurological monitoring? How often is it like something bigger that's more than just a day off? Is it maybe going and seeking some help from a mental health professional or anything along those lines?
That's actually a pretty good question. Like I don't have data on that, more like anecdotal. So that actually did happen, but again, it just happens. So okay, just took a nap, a lot better now. And obviously, sometimes you're gonna have guys that fight you, that still wanna train, and then with the questionnaire, obviously you have guys that are gonna give political answers. Okay, it's Olympics coming up. I'm not tired, coach. You can count on me. And obviously you're also gonna have the guys, I'm not feeling it today. Maybe I can get around it. But like I said, it has happened before that it was a bigger thing and not just tired for the day. But I don't have data on that yet.
maybe a more important question would be, what advice do you have for bro lifters who are just trying to improve their lifts in the weight room, maybe grow more muscular frame? This is for maybe the guy who's going to the local YMCA and is just trying to pursue some muscle. So with how can your local teen lifter or a novice lifter take on, maybe someone's never heard of this velocity-based training before? How can they take the principles that you're applying? You have technology, you have experience, you have expertise. How can like the average Joe kind of take those principles and put them into his bro split?
Well, I think if we don't have any technology, we still have the concept of RPE and RIR, so reps in reserve, or rate of perceived exhaustion. So how am I feeling that day? If I'm prescribed myself a set of 8, so why not pick a weight that I could have done 10 with? So I don't know if that's within the mindset of your bro lifter at the local YMCA, if that's even be something they might be interested in hearing. But I feel like the whole part that I mentioned earlier, pick your battles wisely. For me, it's like the highest good is just availability of players, and we can have players get injured lifting, so doing something that should support their playing ability. And again, also your bro lifter won't get his won't get bigger arms if he can't train because of an elbow tendonitis or what have you. So maybe trying to educate somebody on that mindset to pick your battles wisely. And sometimes it's the things that you didn't do versus things that you just did to just do them that day that helps you in the long run.
Excellent. And then this may be the same question, so I can just take it out if it's the exact overlap. But if you had a little time machine, you could go back 15 or 20 years of lifting for yourself personally. What would you do different? What are some of the concepts you've picked up along the way as a lifter, as a coach, that you would advise young Simon to do differently?
I don't think I've ever consider myself a bro lifter, but probably same thing. Live to fight another day, and obviously there's always going to be benefit in having that mindset of pushing through. But if I'm going back 15 years, I don't think pushing through was always the smartest. Like I said, there were some injuries, but I consider myself lucky to still be healthy today and been mobile today and been just feeling good today. But if you call it velocity-based training, if you call it RPE, whatever have you, I don't think you have to max out every single day. And it's just not in like in powerlifting terms, but that could also be like in terms of volume. Just because you can do 12 sets, maybe 9 sets with more movement quality would have been better. So probably something along those lines. Like the more is not always more. Probably the best way to sum that up.
And then maybe for those of us who could use a little bit more education, can you talk about what happens to the body when maybe you're having one of those green light days where you have a certain window to lift in for speed and you're able to add extra weight in there? So how does lifting those lighter weights faster, how does that help you actually grow your top? Why would you do that instead of seeing how much weight you can lift for a rep that day and just grinding it out? Can you give us a little mini lecture?
Grinding it out, like I said, is especially important for a power lifter. And if we're looking for mental toughness or those things, just standing up with a really heavy rep obviously does something to you and makes you feel good and gets the weight room hyped. And there's always room and time for that. But if I'm looking at the sport that I'm working with, handball, I'd be more interested in rate of force development. As you asked about moving a lighter weight faster, that's also gonna allow me to contract faster and to activate motor neurons faster. So that's actually not only gonna help me move heavier weights better or faster because I'm primed that way, because I'm able to contract my muscles better or faster, but it's going to help me in the sport of handball as well, because time is always a crucial factor. When like my 500 pound squat, you're probably going to have a lot of handball players that can do that, but it's probably more the guys that can squat 300 pounds a lot faster, so just kind of apply their force faster to that object or their opponent on the field, that are going to have an advantage. So I hope that suffices as a mini lecture.
Yes. So to dive into one of those points there, do you often see lifters who maybe have the same 1 rep max, they have the same strength level, but one of those lifters can move submaximal weights superiorly at a superior speed?
Yes, a lot. Especially with a little background sport of handball, you have the position that's called pivot. That's the guy or the girl that has the most physical contact. It's sometimes a little bit of wrestling. They're often built more like a thrower than a handball player. So they're built to absorb force and create force. And then with those guys, they're always strong. And then one thing is just being strong and fast, so moving submaximal weight faster, and then obviously having a certain amount of endurance. So being a game of handball is 2 halves of 30 minutes, so still being able to deal blows and receive blows at minute 48 or what have you. So that'd be your better athletes and therefore your better players.
Excellent. And I think before we started, you were kind of mentioning the top few injuries that these athletes are getting. Can you talk about those a little bit and maybe some of your preventative strategies?
Mm-hmm. So the top 3 would be ankle sprains or strains, knee injuries, and shoulder injuries. With ankle, we have I'm a big fan of actually, especially in the summer and the non-specific training period, of having them do stuff in the sand. So just building up their feet and especially the big toe. And I'm also a big fan of having some sort of awareness in there, because most of the injuries are under contact. They get pushed midair or they're landing on somebody's foot. So being able to react to something. So I like to actually have those guys on unstable surfaces quite a bit. And then with knee, obviously you're gonna prevent a lot of those overuse injuries by building up their posterior chain. And then with overhead injuries or with the shoulder injuries, I have my athletes press overhead. I have my athletes snatch, whether it be in a barbell or dumbbell. So that's not really my I don't know, corrective exercise or my preventive exercise. Just having them fundamentally strong, and especially fundamentally strong overhead, because there's 80 to 100 times that I'm in an overhead position and somebody grabs my arm and need to be able to resist those forces. So that'd be probably the 3 biggest things.
Yeah. I don't. You just remind me of a quote. Maybe you remember who says it, because I can't remember right now. But it's if you're strong overhead, you're strong anywhere.
So. You just said that.
No, I'm not taking credit for it. How about you have seen, and you're a catalyst for some change as well. But what do you think is going to be a little bit different in the near future? What's going to be different with maybe the handball athletes 10 or 20 years from now? How about the bro lifters? What's kind of happening with strength and conditioning? Do you have any forecasts or maybe even hopes for what's going to be different in the future?
I feel like with it's kind of like the circle of life in a certain way. I think that's not just a handball thing, but you have those old school hard-nosed coaches. I think we gotta push our athletes, and more is better. And then obviously, like I said, there's a place and time for everything. But those coaches have been players, or most of them have been players at some point, and I feel like they're using those methods because those are the methods that been used on them when they were playing. And I feel like with a lot of younger coaches, and especially on guys that are still playing now and they will be coaches, they're kind of growing into that system. They know what monitoring is, and they know what load management is, and they've experienced it and seen it as useful. And I feel like that's also gonna get rid of that mentality that more is better. And then with the whole bro lifting thing, as the sport of handball is becoming more and more professional, you have those youth academies where guys start out with 11 or 12 years old, and they're kind of growing up with that functional training methodology. They all own their own black roll, and they all own their own mini bands and power bands, and know what a ramp warm up is, and they know what tissue work is, and then they know all these things, and they see the national level players or international level players doing the same thing. So they're kind of growing up with it. So I feel like it's gonna spread out. So that is my hope, but I also feel like it's already happening. At least in my bubble it is happening. So I feel like that's going to become more and more important, and not just prevention and rehabilitation, but also people like us, so specialized coaches, and then the opportunity that somebody like you and I have their own room to work in, and also have the opportunity to make an impact, to make a change for the better of the players. So it's not just a hope, but something that I've seen over the past 7 or 8 years here with the sport of handball.
Yeah. One of your points there is that the younger kids they're already on that new age of self-care, and you put stress on the system. How are you going to take stress off the system? So maybe they don't know how to verbalize that, but they know that rolling is good for you, and this, that, and the other. So this is right in that same spot. But you're a father. You've got some young children at home. For those younger kids, what do you think that we can do as coaches or as fathers? Like, how can I help my kids achieve their physical potential? What are the good things that we can be doing just to help them grow in those younger ages and go in the right direction?
Mm-hmm. I think one big thing is just being a role model. You've shown me your home gym earlier, and it's my dream to have a home gym myself here at some point. And I feel like just for them the opportunity to see us at least be active. Like I'm not even talking about lifting anything, just be active and be present. And I feel like that's probably the biggest thing I've learned from my kids, just living and being in the moment. And enjoying that moment, not just plans, and this is what we do next year, and this is what we do after that, just in the moment. And I feel like kind of time is very precious, and using that time to just have them see you do something, learn something, observe, and maybe replicate that. That'd be one thing. And the second thing would probably just taking good care of yourself, because one of my, or probably the biggest mentor I have and had in the world of strength and conditioning is Coach Doyle from Iowa football. Used to work at Iowa football, who said you can't pour from an empty cup. So if I'm not taking good care of myself and my health, not only gonna am I not going to be in the moment with my kids, but how long am I going to be there for my kids? So that'd be probably my two things: just being a good role model and taking care of yourself.
Thank you so much. And what do people call you? They call you Coach, or they call you Dr. Simon, Dr. Overkamp, Dr. O, Coach O? What do you go by?
I usually go by Simon, but when I had just finished my PhD, Dr. Simon became increasingly popular, but I haven't been too excited about it, and I think it's dying down again. So it's back to Simon, yeah.
You're going back to just the one name. Got it. Like Madonna, if you will.
Yeah, not the same, but very similar, yeah.
Yes. I'm sure it will be a part of your rise to fame and glory. I don't know if you're interested, but if listeners like what you have to say and want to maybe ask some more questions or contact you, communicate, is there a way that they can do that?
I'm not very big on social media, but the one way to reach me, or the best way to reach me, would probably be via LinkedIn. Just type in my name, Dr. Simon Overkamp, and get in touch with me through LinkedIn. Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening to our Winning Wellness podcast. If you have any questions or suggestions for podcast guests or topics, you can submit those through YouTube comments. You can message me on Instagram. My handle is Mitch Schwartzman, or you can email me at coachmitchschwartzman@gmail.com.